Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody is good on this Friday. It is the 68 years anniversary of the Munich air disaster. Of course, Manchester United already doing their sort of, remembrance ceremony that they have done. So I just really quick want to start off the show in today with a little of my own sort of, I guess, a speech or whatever you want to call it. But I'll just kick it off with this. Today marks the 68 years since 6 February 1958, a day that changed Manchester United into football forever. We are here to remember the lives that were taken, the families who were shattered, and the teammates and survivors who carried that pain for the rest of their days. We remember the brilliance of a young side who played with freedom and fearlessness, and we remember the courage it took to rebuild when the world thought it was impossible. Because Munich is not just a tragedy in our club's history. It's part of our identity. It's why this club means more than trophies. It's why United is not just a slogan, but a promise that we stand together in grief and we rise together in hope. And now we do what this day demands of us. We say their names clearly, proudly, and with love, so they are never reduced to a number, never lost in time. The players we lost that day: Gareth Bennett, Roger Bryan, Eddie Coleman, Duncan Edwards, Mark Jones, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, Liam Billy Whelan. The staff and crew we lost that day: Walter Crickmer, Bert Wally, Tom Curry, Captain Kenneth Raymond, Tommy Cable. The journalists that lost their lives that day: Alf Clark, H.D. Donnie Davies, George Follows, Tom Jackson, Archie Ledbrook, Henry Rose, Eric Thompson, Frank Swift, and the others that were lost as well: Bella Mikolos and Willie Santinoff. We honor them not only with silence, but with remembrance that has a heartbeat in our voices, in our songs, and in the way we carry this club forward with humility and pride. May they rest in peace, and may they never be forgotten. And it's one of those days. It's always a bit hard to do these shows here because of just the magnitude of the tragedy that it was. And I'm not from the area, and people are from the area. Obviously, it impacted maybe their generations in the past. And that's always a really tough thing for a town, a community, a city, and stuff like that. But I always feel very strongly for this sort of day, because what I said in there, to me, always really hits home, in that United is not just a slogan. And the Munich air disaster to me is like sort of the biggest resemblance of that. I talk about it a lot on our shows. When we have our back up against the wall, when we look like there's no way out, there's no, we're done and we're dusted. This football club has come through time and time again. They find a way to rebuild, to become better, to become stronger, to pull together. And that's what the club has always meant to me. So, rest in peace to those legends and those people. It's unfortunate that event has happened, but sort of like I mentioned yesterday, sometimes you got to find a little bit of the positivity or a little bit of the light in the darkness. And I do think, after such a tragedy like that, the club and the people all involved did sort of come out stronger from that. And that's really the only sort of positivity that you can really say from all of that. But rest in peace to those 68 years anniversary. and we'll talk about it a little bit. Sebastian says, a broken heart, a broken dream, a broken plane, a broken team. No words were said. A silent vow. We loved you then, and we'll love you now. Absolutely. And that's also beautiful as well. However, I don't know who the original creator of that is, but very, very beautiful. Renoso is here. Sebastian obviously is here. Shars O1B is here as well. Sebastian saying, hope we pump Spurs hard tomorrow there. I hope so too. Listen, we got some things that we got to get into. So real quick, just please, if you haven't already, please smash the like button. It's important to the channel, to the community. So get that done, people. And also, if you're new and you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We are, I think, 7 away from 3,300. We want to get to 3,500, so let's do that. We do have a big show as well. Sort of probably towards the end, we'll bring in, a couple things from the Munich as well. But we're going to talk about, there's been sort of some transfer updates in terms of apparently Manchester United are looking to spend 200 million plus in the summer, plus being the key word. There's been updates around that. Kobbie Mainoo, new contract sort of getting ready to be imminently done, or at least start the negotiations. He's going to get a significant pay rise on what he's on now, and he should, because he's only on double digits. And we have some updates about Bruno, potentially maybe leaving, future still up in the air. New sort of updates coming about Anthony Gordon, because United are sort of interested in the left winger. So, we're going to get into all this stuff. Lawrence says, my father used to watch that team in the 1950s, would have been very young himself, still a teenager in 1958. Yeah, my father was born shortly after that happened, so he wasn't alive when it happened, and then a couple years after that he was only like a child as he grew up into it. So but basically he grew up with the team that sort of came out and rised from the ashes after that. That was that team that he sort of went into with. So yeah, it's always a sad day for me. It's always a hard day for me to do the shows on these days. It gets me very sad. It does. It's sort of tough, but we're here and we'll get through it together. And so by the way, before we sort of do move on a little bit, because there's only so much I could really say about it. But we can reminisce, or we can bring up some stuff about it later on. But this was, I'm sure you've seen plenty of images, but this was the turnout for today. And I mean, it was, as I expected, absolutely massive, absolutely fantastic, and absolutely brilliant. And just another show, of our club and our supporters and sort of the local community as well. And we have our differences, a lot of us throughout the world, the fan base, but it's always nice that everybody comes together. I mean, even the blue side of Manchester comes together for this, so I think it's always nice, that at least for a day everybody can put their differences aside, and football differences aside, to acknowledge, sort of human life and stuff like that, and just sort of celebrate or remember it, and keep those people sort of alive in a sense, to continue that tradition. So Sebastian says Matt Busby's message to Old Trafford from his hospital bed is one of the most emotional ones for this tragedy to bro. And I can only imagine, could only play out the scenario in my head. Imagine being sort of him in that position. You survive something like that, and for him to go on and do what he did, I always think he definitely 100% he had to carry that with him for sure. Um, and I think a lot of what he did was for those people. It's a tough thing to live with. It's a tough thing to live with because you definitely, as a human being, you got to question. Why me? Why did I survive that? Why did the other ones not survive? You definitely feel some sort of guilt as well. So things you gotta, overcome. And also, not to mention, like there was a couple of them that they did survive. Like they could never play again. You know what I mean? So even to survive that, the sort of emotional mental trauma that comes with all of that after is it's extremely hard. You know what I mean? It's extremely hard to navigate with and to deal with. And I always just felt like that he definitely always had a piece of that with him. And everything that he did after that, he definitely did it 100%, whether he said it or not. But for sure, I think a lot of what he did was just to honor all those people. You know what I mean? And Sebastian has given us the direct quote, which thank you. Says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking to you from my hospital bed in Munich. After the terrible accident, you will be glad to hear the players that are left and myself are recovering slowly. We are the lucky ones. We are Matt Busby's family. Nobody called him Matt, only me. For the rest, he was boss. He was everything to me, Bobby Charlton said once, although he never liked to speak about the accident. Be right back, getting emotional. I don't blame you, brother. Grace is here. What's up, Grace? How you doing? We're doing our little remembrance on the channel, like we've done so for today. Yeah, and you watch sort of videos. Obviously, I wasn't alive. I don't think really any of us were alive. But you watch the videos on YouTube. You look up the images. You look at the documentary. And it's always a tough watch. It's bittersweet. It makes you feel sad, but at the same time, it always gave me like a sense of pride, sense of hope. And I usually walk away feeling quite, hopeful of just life in general, you know what I mean? So yeah. But and it's always hard to transition back to regular sort of general United talk after we do one of these, but I do always feel like it is appropriate to open the show with this. You got to do it first. You can't leave it for last. It needs to be the first thing on the show. So it's always a bit weird and a bit strange to transition from something so deep and emotional to something that then seems so trivial, which is transfer news and player contracts and stuff like that. But we'll talk about that in a second, Grace. Lawrence says, extraordinary history aside, clubs definitely have up and down periods. We could have predicted who could have predicted the decline in the 1970s after all, the 60s European glory, and then the tough decade in the 80s too. And that's really what I always speak about, specifically this football club. You have Munich air disaster. You go to the European glory in the 60s. You have the decline in the 70s, a tough decade in the 80s. And then we came back, in sort of the late 90s. And that's what I always say this football club has throughout its sort of history. And you could go further back, prior to Munich, and even when the club was like sort of first founded, first created and started competing. It's always been ups and downs. Every club has ups and downs, but obviously, ours, I always find it super special. I think every club has its own sort of story, but ours is I've always viewed it as ultra unique. And that's what I always feel like the club is super special in that way, in the way that it does go up and downs, in the way that, you know, we have gone up from the downs. And that's what always made the club super special to me anyway. It's like they never, Fergie embodied it, sort of the never give in attitude. I like that sort of stuff. So it's one of the main reasons why I'm a United fan. I mean, obviously, my father is a main reason as well. But, hey, my father, he couldn't make me love the football club the way the story of the football club made me love the football club. You know what I mean? So Sebastian says, but still, I can't help myself to think what would have happened if this disaster did not occur. I mean, well, listen, we'll never know, I guess. We'll never really know. We could speculate, I guess. We could maybe fantasize. Or sort of a happier storyline. One a lot more, peaceful, not tragic, happy days sort of stuff. But this is just, it's life. And, over time I've become, and that's why I didn't really want to say it yesterday. I said sort of, an alternate hypothetical, but I have become a believer over time that, negative things are always going to happen in life, no matter where it is. And ultimately, it's not that I wish for negative things to happen. It's just that I know that they will happen. And, I've seen a lot of stuff even in my life. Not, it might not be firsthand, it might be secondhand. But usually when some sort of tragedy, some really bad thing happens, people tend to end up coming out of it on the other side stronger, more resilient, and in a certain different type of way, better off for it, So, that's why I sort of look at it as like, it's sad with the loss of life, but I also kind of, I don't want to say good because it's, it's not necessarily good, but it's that this gave us something to sort of build out from. And I think a lot of people, the club itself, the area, people were hurting, but eventually people got a lot stronger because of it. So it's not always 100% darkness. You know what I mean? New York in particular for modern tragedies. Yeah, and like that's what I'm saying. Like, stuff like that, like, that was a disaster in itself. And that was like, that always gets me emotional as well, because I live in the area. And I was born close to there. I live further out, a little further away now, but I know people that live there and they work there, and thankfully for me, none of them lost their lives on that day. But it's always like, well, what if, or it could have happened. And you're lucky in that sense that nobody you knew personally. But still, all of that stuff is, always really, really sad. And then you hear crazy, extraordinary stories like, when I entered the construction business, because that's what I work in, and I do work in New York City. I did hear there was people, obviously, they're older than me. I was like a child when that happened. And they do, somebody told me that they knew somebody that was working in one of the Twin Towers doing construction, and they had two kids, two young guys. And in the construction business, the young guy, the apprentice, they send them out for coffee, okay, to go get coffee for the crew, for the workers. So it was supposed to be this kid's turn, and the other kid went to him and asked him, do you mind if I go out, because he's like, I need to smoke a cigarette. I really need a cigarette today. And, the guy told him, yeah, like, no problem. He's like, go ahead. He's like, and I'll do it tomorrow. And so that guy went out and he went to the street to go smoke a cigarette, and he went to go get the coffee. And on his way to go get the coffee, the planes hit the building, and that other kid lost his life. And, you know, you hear little things like that and you say, you know, you can't make that up. That's crazy. And you probably, listen, if you're that other guy, again, you probably definitely live with some guilt, with some, you know, remorse. You definitely say, that was supposed to be me. It wasn't supposed to be him. And, you know, everybody's sort of first reaction when I tell that story is, you know, smoking saved his life. Yeah, but, you know, also if you're that man, you probably say smoking got a guy killed that wasn't supposed to die necessarily. So, you know, yeah, those things are always horrible. So, look at West Ham today if you want to feel better about past glories. Leeds may be doing them a favor. 2 up against Forest currently, but that's one meeting I look forward to on Tuesday. Duncan Edwards is one of the best at only 21. That's what they always say. That's what they always say, and that's always one of the things that I wish, you know, that young kid got to see his career, you know, full out. You know what I mean? May I suggest we keep 1 minute of silence? I mean, we can do that. We can do that. Let me finish before moving on to other stories. We can do that. Have you changed the mod icon? No, I don't know if I could do that. Maybe YouTube. You currently in the USA? Yes, I live in the USA. I live in and around New York. I lived in Paris and then in Nice when there was terrorist tragedies. I remember those as well. Yeah. But yeah, let's sort of do it. I'll put it on a timer. Let's do it. Let's do a minute of silence for the Munich air disaster. We'll do a minute of silence. Let me just pull this up here. All right, I'm gonna do a minute of silence starting now. Nobody send messages. Okay, I know you guys. I know it's not a voice, but no messages for a minute, and I'll stay silent myself. All right, starting 1, 2, 3. All right, 1 minute's up. Rest in peace to everybody. But I seem good at avoiding such things, though Nice was close, had a summer flu on a French Independence Day. Hey, man, sometimes it's just not your time, you know? That's what my father always says. He says, when your time is up, and that's just how it goes. So, sometimes it's just not your time, man. But yeah, we all gotta live life to the fullest. You never know. You just never know. But we do need to sort of talk about some of the stuff that has come out today. Okay? So we're going to shift gears a little bit. And then towards the end of the show, or the back end of the show, if we want to talk more about it, we can go back into the discussion, talk about the Busby Babes and a little bit more stuff like that. So, now, Grace did ask, have we bought 2 elite midfielders yet? No, not yet. But we do have a bit of an update on that. So there's been a couple of transfer newses Okay, one has to do with Luis Enrique, because he's been talked about a little bit. All right, with a possibility of maybe him becoming, the permanent manager. There's been some fake news, and then there's been some updates, basically correcting that fake news, and calling it out for fake news. So we're gonna get to that as well. I'm just looking for one of the stories. Okay, couple things. We're gonna jump around here because there's not too much detail in all of them. But one person that has been named, and this is coming from, I think it's like a small German source. So, I'm not really. I don't really. I mean, listen, he would be on a free, so I guess the possibility is possible. Being on a free, but I kind of feel like right now, because of his sort of age, maybe his agent is using his name to garner up interest for his, free agent, because he is 31 years of age. And I do feel like that doesn't necessarily fit the Ineos sort of plan. But the one update that we did get was Manchester United are among several clubs weighing up a move for Leon Goretzka, who is set to leave Bayern Munich as a free agent this summer. United view him as a leader who could add physicality and presence to the midfield. Now, he is 31 years of age, so I don't know if Manchester United are necessarily interested in signing him. I know he would technically be on a free, but free isn't always the cheapest option, because while you're not paying for a transfer fee, they do tend to ask for higher signing on bonuses, higher wages, and he's 31. So I don't know if United, maybe United might be interested in it, but if the deal was to happen, it would have to be in certain parameters on a certain wage. And if he has multiple offers, he'll probably end up choosing to go somewhere else. So this is sort of the first that this has kind of been mentioned. I'm sure it's going to be mentioned a lot more going forward. There's quite actually a few people that are like sort of free agents coming up in this summer. So the free agent market might be sort of a big one. And I'm sure we're going to get linked to a bunch of them as well. So is Amorim coming back? No, Amorim's not coming back. Sebastian says he is quite injury prone, right? Probably to a certain degree. I do think he tends to get slightly especially now. If I can find his injury record. Because I do remember him getting injured a couple times here and there, but off the top of my head. So I wouldn't say he's like super injury prone. He does, listen, over the course of his, there's 4 pages of this, so actually, yes. I mean, he's been playing since like 2013, 2014. He's had a lot of sort of injuries, but they're very small. So he's like injury prone in a different way. But I guess the more recent, if you look at this year, he's missed 3 games. One was a hamstring strain. Okay? He missed 2 matches. And one was a bruise. Actually, this season he's missed no games. But I don't know if he's playing. I don't know if he's playing a lot. This was last season. Sorry, I was in the wrong year. Last year, he missed 3 matches in total. The year before that, 23-24 season, he missed 3, 4, 5, 6 matches. One was a broken hand. He missed 3 matches. He had a muscular problem. He missed 1 match. And then he was ill and missed 2 matches. And this year so far, he's missed none. But you do have to look into his playing time here. He's played 18 matches. He's played 18 matches. He's started most of them. Okay, he's played 18 matches in the Bundesliga. He's played 6 in the Champions League. Total of 28 matches this season. So, I mean, it might not be that bad. You know what I mean? Injury-wise. At that point, extend Kobbie for a year. Well, the thing is that, I don't know. It's like a mutual agreement, you know? And so, with Casemiro. So, Manchester United obviously want a lower wage, and Casemiro maybe is looking for, and you can't really blame him, he's at the end of his career, maybe he's looking for sort of one kind of last final payout. And we're not really going to give that to him, are we? I mean, he's on a lot of money. And I would assume the reason why he's not staying is because he just decided that I have some other options, particularly maybe Saudi Arabia, which he will get paid. So, Gray says, I think Sandberg is the best Casemiro replacement, but also Agume of Sevilla. Snap Meme says, saw a rumor that Man United pursuing Kenan Yildiz. Yeah, that's popped up a few times. I don't know if I really believe it. It's definitely a rumor. That's popped up a few times here and there. It's never really stuck, though. Every time it's popped up and it's not talked about, 24 to 48 hours later. The story pretty much just dies down. So, I think Yildiz is a fantastic player. I think if you're going to get somebody like, if Bruno Fernandes leaves, we're going to go young, I'd go for maybe Yildiz. And maybe you could get him on a decently good price because Serie A, you know what I mean? And if he was maybe from La Liga or maybe he was from the Premier League, he'd be going for way, way more money. So I think he's a young, talented player that could maybe fill that spot. He would be like a Schweinsteiger signing then to mentor the young mid. I was gonna read that as mother effer. The young midfielder we will be signing. Cass getting a lot of interest from USA and Saudi. Yeah, he's gonna get. Leeds are leading 2-0, right? Yes, Forest are a mystery to me. Yeah, I don't know. Forest. They do well in one competition, they do well against one team, then they do horrible against another team. It's kind of the summary of the league, isn't it? That it's been for this season. So, listen, I don't know. Ungaretska, I mean, I don't know. We got to see where it goes. Okay? Again, we've been in sort of a position that our name is used a lot. And maybe we're not actually interested in it, but maybe his agent is putting this out there to garner up interest. Might as well start now. Sort of get a head start, get some other clubs interested, get his team the best deal or something like that. So I think we just got to see and wait. I don't think it would be maybe necessarily a bad thing if you get some experience. Okay, he's played for Bayern. Obviously, it would depend on the wages, of course. And what that would equal to. Also, how long of a contract can you give him? You can't give him a 5-year deal. 4 would be pushing it at the age of 31. Because he is 31, right? Yes, he's 31, and he will be 32. Where is it? Born 6th February 1995. Wait, so did he just turn 31? Or Did he just turn 31? Today is the 6th, no? Of February? So he just turned 31. So he was just 30. Or did he just turn 32 and this thing did an update? I don't know. I can't do the math. But yeah, listen, I think I think maybe for depth it wouldn't be that bad, but it all depends on the deal anyway. It depends on the deal. So we'll see. We'll see about that one. That one, we're kind of gonna have to wait till sort of closer to the end of the season. No, I was talking about Leon Goretzka. His birthday is February 6th. 95. Well, actually, I should know that because I'm technically like a year older than him. Yeah, he just turned. Yeah, he just turned 31. He just turned 31. Sky Sports said we are interested in Dortmund midfielder Eric. Yeah, okay. You almost got me with that one, Grace. Almost got me. Almost got me. It was a good try. It was a good try. I was a word away from there. It was a good try. I was kind of surprised that more people haven't tried to do that to me yet. Since the inception of this since the inception of this channel. And I would be the one. I would be the one to get caught. To get got. I would be the one to get got because I tend to just whatever's on the screen, I just read it. But thankfully my brain can at least read one word ahead. Okay? Thankfully my brain could at least read one word ahead of the other word, all right? It might not be able to do 2 words, but it could do at least 1 word. So you're gonna have to make it a little bit more clever for the next one. For the next time you try, all right? You're gonna have to make it a little bit. You're gonna have to make it a little bit more confusing for me to read it out there, to see it. All right. Now there's a couple more updates. Okay. We gotta find them. All right. So on Kobbie Mainoo. All right. We got this update saying Manchester United to open contract talks with Kobbie Mainoo imminently, capital imminently, and hopeful a deal can be agreed reasonably quickly. Always planned to offer a new contract, and timing is now right with Mainoo back in the team. And the follow-up to that is that he is going to get what is being quoted as a significant pay raise because he is still only on 25,000 a week wage. So he will get a 6-figure wage. Whether it's, we don't know the exact sort of wage, but it will be at least 100,000 per week, which at this point, I mean, is fair. And I always kind of feel bad because to be on 25K a week with the involvement that he's had in the team for the most part, obviously not on the Ruben, but, since he's come in through Ten Hag and all that time, and then now back in with Carrick, scoring some of the goals that he scored, playing in a lot of the games that he played in, and getting paid 25,000 a week. I always felt really bad that he was sort of getting robbed there because he's done sort of a decently good job compared to maybe some of his other teammates or his former teammates that are no longer here, and they were getting paid a lot more money than him. So I feel like at this point, he definitely needs an updated contract. I don't know why, but I never watch Sky Sports News unless I'm in this one bar in Spain. Maybe it's because they're anti-United, too many commercials too. I used to watch them, and every once in once in a red moon, okay? I got a way to watch them. I got a box, okay? If you know about the box, I got a box, okay? So I could get all the UK channels. Sometimes I put them on. If I need some sort of like background noise or something, or sometimes I mean, now in today's time it's a bit different, but you know, I used to put them back on the day transfer deadline and stuff like that to get all the updates and you know, confirmations and stuff like that. And my uncle that owns the bar in Malta, the family bar, he always has that. Like if there's no games, if there's no matches, it's like during the day, maybe it's like 4 p.m. or something over there. He's got like 3, 4, 5 TVs. They're all playing like Sky Sports, you know, and it's always like bringing the news. So it's a little bit of no, not sentimentality, but um, yeah, just like you know, yeah, an IPTV, yeah, yeah. Shh. Don't tell the FBI or the CIA, okay? Um, even though they're watching. Hi, little person watching all of us and tracking us. Um, everybody say hello to the little AI man that's cataloging everything we're saying. Uh, Lauren says, I just have this feeling that it's the age of Cassie and Bruno around Mainoo, which makes our midfield and defense vulnerable. I hope we can find a player or two with with stress on the physicality over 90 minutes. I'm actually not convinced by Paleba, to be honest. I think Paleba is all right for us. Listen, I think Baleba is a young guy. All right. I would advise not to pay 100 million for him. Okay, because I don't think that he is necessarily worth 100 million. Again, I sort of look at it and I say, you know, somebody like Declan Rice, who can who has proven that he can definitely do both sides of the game. Okay, Declan Rice does everything. I think Declan Rice is a guy where you say he's definitely worth 100 million. And I know people that don't like Arsenal are going to hate me saying that, but I gotta be fair. All right. I gotta be fair. And, you know, Baleba to me won't be a guy that necessarily is sort of that level of a Declan Rice where he can literally do almost anything. I mean, the guy does free kicks. He takes corners. He can score. He defends well. He's got good speed. He's got good physicality. I mean, Declan Rice has got it all, okay? I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about Baleba. I wouldn't say Baleba's got it all. But as in terms of as like a destroyer of some sort, I think Baleba is good. He's 22 years of age. And it's sort of the player that we would typically get. Listen, he's been playing for Brighton. He's been playing in the Premier League. He's done, you know, well. This season, it's a little bit maybe more average or lesser than his previous season. But this is sort of the player that maybe we used to sort of take on back in the day. You know, go to a Brighton, get somebody like a Baleba at 22, 23 years of age. You're at that age ready for the next step, and you come to United and you grow more and you grow with the team and the team grows with you, and you know, you become a good player. So Declan Rice is defo a guy. I missed your message. I heard Turkish forward. You're not gonna get me. FBI got bigger issues to deal with. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Listen, they don't. I mean, you know, where we're going is they're just gonna have the AI track everybody, and it's gonna make a little file on you, so they don't have to do it. And then when they need to pull up the little file on you, or the big file, depending on what you're doing, it's just right there. So you know, AI is gonna do all the information. It's gonna get everything on everybody and to put it in a little folder, and then they'll have the little FBI guys, and they'll be like, all right, we need to find you know, Eric, and they'll just click on my folder, and they'll be like, here's a list of everything he's ever said, and then that's it. So they must be losing lots of money, the satellite and cable networks, from the apps we get on our Fire Sticks. No need for other streaming platforms or movies. Well, here's the thing also, okay? Like, my thing I always say is, like, they're not necessarily fair to the people, and I think it's a bit crazy, okay? Like, I can't blame people for doing that, all right? To pay for 7 to 8 different subscriptions just so you can watch, like, one match or one game or, like, one team or, like, one event is, like, you know, it's madness. It's madness. So it's just like, you know, you pay for one, you only get certain access to that. You pay for another one, you only get certain access to that. It's like, dude, like, our lives are already, like, you know, they're already, like, hard enough with all the other shit that we need to pay for, bills, property taxes, and all that stuff. We just want to, every once in a while, sit down and sort of, like, relax and maybe, like, watch a game and be entertained. And it's like, you know, I got to pay $40 a month for this. I got to pay $25 a month for that. I got to pay $15 for this. I got to pay, you know, for this pay-per-view. And it's like, come on. Like, how much more are we going to continue to get ripped off and robbed here? You know what I mean? Rice was one of the worst misses we did on the transfer market. If we put the money on the table, we would have signed him at the time. Well, maybe. I mean, he did sort of want to stay in London. And London was a big thing for him. So, you know, it definitely didn't help that we didn't necessarily try our hardest, because maybe we could have swayed him, right? But we didn't even really try for it. And yeah, I think one of those, you know, out of all the people that we may have not gotten, he's obviously been the biggest one, because, I mean, look how he's turned out. And I always say, for a player that was spent $100 million on, I was like, he's the one that's justified the price tag for it. So Sebastian says I would sign Anderson and possibly that powerful guy from Monaco. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think at the very least, see, I don't think we're at this point. I don't think we're necessarily going to get. I don't think we're going to get 2 out of the 3. I think we're going to end up getting 1 of the 3. So I don't know which one of the 3 we're going to necessarily get, but I think we'll get 1 of the 3, and then we'll probably have to go and get somebody else from somewhere else. You know, I think to get 2 out of the 3 will be quite hard. Instead of, you know, Anderson, Warner, Baleba. Unless we, you know, if we pull that off, it'll be huge. You know, everybody will lose their mind. And everybody will be hyped as fuck. But I think it's going to be extremely difficult to get 2 out of the 3. So I think we will still sign 2 midfielders. But the second one might not necessarily be one of those 3. It might be somebody else. Maybe a Stiller. Or maybe, you know, somebody else from somewhere else. Do you play Fantasy Premier League? I used to. I haven't played it in like a couple years now. But I used to. But I you know what? I actually wanted to do it this year, but I forgot because I was on vacation still when the league started, and by the time I got back, it was already like few in, and I was like, fuck, you know? And I was just like, whatever, it's too late. Like, Google him. Heard he is a big United fan, so no worries. Shaquille Oatmeal says, all spin because United playing once a week. Next season, our midfield should be Mainoo and Bruno F. I know what she tried to do because Peter, okay, they pronounce it in an English UK accent as Peta. Okay? So I know what she was trying to do, but it wouldn't even have came out the same, all right? English language barrier difference, okay? Grace, I like Hackney too. Yeah, you've been saying that for a while. I like Hackney too. I don't think I think Hackney would be like one that like, again, if we sort of added him to the mix, I think that would be like I would be happy with that. I think he's one that like, I would say if the club made a move for him, I'd be like, yeah. It's a good move in that regard. Oh, and I just have to sort something out here. I don't know what's going on. What had happened was, what about one of the three and the second one like Hackney? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that wouldn't be bad either necessarily. Like that wouldn't be terrible, or anything like that. I could live with that. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be going crazy and saying like, oh, it's a disgrace. It depends on the sort of the players, that they ultimately go and get. I mean, if you were to like, for example, like if they got one of the three, okay, and then they were like, oh yeah, by the way, the other one is like Wilfred and Didi, okay, I'll be like, well, no, that's fucking shit, okay. It's got to fit like sort of a certain parameter. They got to be like, for me, if you get a 23-year-old, if you don't get somebody that's sort of in their prime at like 26, 27 entering that, like, it's got to be a good mixture. It's got to make sense. I'm not like too fussed on this specific type of player. It's more of just the profile for me. I'm not too fussed on, I don't really have sort of maybe a preference of, oh, I'd rather have Elliot Anderson than Wharton or whatever. It's more just the profile of the player, and then the pairing of the profile has to make sense. It's got to be good. It's got to have already a decent level of ability now, plus with the potential, and it's got to fit sort of the squad, the team. They need to be able to obviously grow as well. Like we need, I would want them to come in where they can ultimately start and, actually start, but then also have room to become an even better player over the next, whatever it is, 5+ years, as long as they are there. So Hackney could be a backup for Mainoo if you want to build around Mainoo. Well, I think the club is looking maybe to build around Mainoo, yeah. And also these guys will all be like, sort of in a certain age bracket. They'll be close to each other's age as well. So I think it's healthy competition as well. And they should all sort of push each other, but also, maybe an age group like that goes off well as well. They sort of relate to each other a little bit more, younger guys in there. But I feel like, I feel like the midfield, it's fine to get the younger guys, but I do feel like, if you're going to add to that mix, I feel like we should try and get at least one guy in some sort of capacity, whether, he doesn't have to necessarily be a starter. Maybe, maybe he'll be a squad player or something like that. They have to have a bit of experience. They need to have a little bit more experience than the rest of them. Like for me, if you could get somebody that's like 26, 27 and get them in there with maybe Mainoo and, whether it's Baleba or Elliot Anderson or Wharton or something like that. Because I sort of expect Ugarte to go as well. So, I mean, really all we got left in that position is Kobbie. So, we're talking about bringing in two midfielders. And maybe they mean in a sense of paying for two midfielders and then maybe like, for transfer fees. And then maybe we get a third that's like a more experienced guy on a free of some sort. And we'll have sort of the three main and a rotational player for depth. Because there's just no way that we can, if we only get two, we'll be short one. And I don't think we can handle a season like that with just three midfielders. We're going to definitely need 4. So they're going to have to do something about that. Why does every midfielder we buy have to be expensive? There's so many good players out there. Well, that's what happens when you're like, in my opinion, I would say not competent with player recruitment. Again, I keep using Sonny Lemons as an example, and I think many of us have asked for this. And, you know, I guess it's sort of easier said than done, but, you know, other teams can do it. It's been done before, and there's definitely players out there. You just have to be sort of aware and then willing to do that. You know, why can't you find a midfielder like Sonny Lemons of around that same age for a certain price? You know, it doesn't have to be 18 million. Could be 25, could be 30, maybe even 35. You know, it's on the lower side. It's not 80. It ain't 100 million. And why you can't make him part of the squad? You know, because those players definitely exist. There's definitely deals that you can do. You need to identify them. You need to know, you know, you need to be able to analyze the player properly and find a couple hidden gems. And that's, you know, if you're really good at your job in terms of, you know, director of football and head of recruitment and stuff like that. So, like some kind of talent that could grow into a bigger player, right? Yeah, that's, to me, I think that's sort of the best scenario. I mean, that's really what we used to do. We used to take, especially like under Fergie. I mean, Fergie he got all sorts of players, but one of the things that I always thought was great and was always the best was that there would be players out there that, you know, they're not necessarily in their prime. They got a few more years before they enter that, but they already have a certain level to them. And we would bring them and we would continue, you know, they would continue the development at United and then become very sort of top exceptional players at our football club. And we sort of like, you know, made our own stars instead of what we've kind of been doing, which is the other clubs sort of make the player into almost, you know, at least half a star or 3/4 of a star. And then we have to go and pay premium ultra fees and then, you know, a lot of the times it didn't even work out, you know. So why would you think they let Kobbie and Kone go on loan? Well, Collier, I think Collier is sort of at the edge of like not making it. Sekou Kone, I just think that maybe, and I said this yesterday, I don't think Sekou Kone is necessarily ready, because I feel like if he was ready, especially with Carrick coming in, I think they would have used him in a different way. But I don't agree with the fact that we sent Sekou to Lausanne. I don't understand why we couldn't have sent him to the championship like everybody else. Collier, he might be a little bit of a late bloomer, but also we never actually, you know, like Scott, but we never sent Scott on a loan like that. And, you know, he ain't really getting any younger. So I think with Collier, he might actually get sold if he doesn't show something on loan at the championship. You know what I mean? On loan, he's got to show a certain level. I kind of feel like Collier is kind of fighting for his future right now, whereas Sekou Kone, I think it's just still early stages. And again, it's sort of this PR machine that we have where we always get some sort of update about these players. And, you know, even some of the fans that watch the youth games, they rave about these people or these kids, and they swear up and down by them. But it's like, yeah, but I always say like, yeah, but if that's actually true, I feel like we would see them like they would somehow like break in. Like my stance is always like, if you're good enough, like you will force your way in somehow, you know, unless like everybody is just totally incompetent. But I find it hard that, like, you know, Carrick wouldn't be able to see it, and all of the other coaches and all of the rest of the, staff for like the under 21s, the coaches, the manager, like I find it hard to see how none of them, how all of them would miss, some sort of an exceptional talent that would be ready to actually play or be able to keep up to the level of playing for the first team. So, Anderson is going to have to like the club to come. That was the case with Cunha and Bryant, and you feel Enrique will go to City because of Pep and Barca. Well, we do have an update about that, and I'll explain that. But, I mean, I don't think Anderson hasn't made a decision, and he's not going to make one until after the World Cup. So that one is going to get done. That one's going to get done in later on in July. But listen, I think in terms of like liking the club, I mean, if you're a player, it's not that hard to do in terms of keeping your options open. I think when they were saying that though, when the club said that, it's because they knew we weren't going to be in Champions League. So they kind of just avoided any player that basically was like, sort of interested in Champions League specifically, which Mbeumo and Cunha didn't care about. But if we're going to be back in Champions League, I don't think we'll have that problem anymore. So then it'll just be sort of like, it'll be more normal business. They did it to avoid wasting time because ultimately, if your number one preference is Champions League and we can't offer that to them, then pretty much we would be wasting our time because they're not going to, in the end, they're probably not going to pick us over another club. But we should probably pick up McNichol and Chubby McFlurry. Collier physically ain't it, and Kone got hit back with that head injury. 2 new midfielders, Mainoo and Kone, midfield next season. Is that enough? I don't know, because I just don't know how good Kone actually is. Like, I mean, I would need to see him play in the first team, and the problem is that we've sent him out on loan to Lausanne. So maybe it could be good enough if he's ready for that level. It'll be quite young. It'll be a really young midfield. Really young. But listen, I mean, if Saku can handle his own to a certain level, obviously, he'll have much more to grow and develop his game. But if he can hold his own to a certain level at the first team level, then, I mean, as long as you have 4 midfielders, like that, I would say, yeah, it should be decently enough. But I feel like it's a bit inexperienced, so I don't know. And I don't know how actually good Saku is, because he needs to play for us. We need to see him play against a few different teams in a few different scenarios in a few different matches to fully gauge, like, what is his ultimate, like, how good is his strengths and how weak is his weaknesses, and what is the actual level. Like, is he just like not actually ready? So I would almost go with, at this point, I would have those 3, 2 new midfielders, Mainoo. I'd actually get 3 new midfielders, Mainoo, and then see what we do with Saku. Maybe we loan him to the Championship. I don't know. I don't like how he went to Lausanne. It doesn't make sense to me. He should have went to the Championship. So Switzerland is nice, though. Well, it's a nice place. I don't know about the level of competition. Ineos being cheap, sending him to the club that they use as a Swiss tax haven. Well, that's what I kind of feel like, to be cynical about it. That's what I felt like it was, and also, they own it. And, we did get an update yesterday about them saying that, like, the people at Lausanne are blown away by his ability. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, he was playing in the under 21s for Manchester United. And the Swiss League is like, the Championship is better than the Swiss League. So it's like, I'm not surprised that they're blown away. How can you not be blown away? He's walked in there. He's automatically probably their best player. By far. Because I think you would make the argument there's probably no player in the Swiss League that's playing in the Swiss League that's going to end up in Manchester United's academy. They're not going to be in the under 18s. They're not going to be in the under 21s. And they're definitely not going to make it into the first team. So he's gone there and he's walked into a league where he's basically like a top player of the league, like automatically. Bro, need to go now, says Sebastian. You planning a preview for the Spurs game? Well, I kind of did it yesterday. Let me know. We'll join tomorrow. But I'm not gonna do a watch along. It's too early for me, and I'd have to wake up too early, and it's not gonna happen because I already know tonight I got sort of a late night. It's gonna be a struggle for me to wake up to watch the match, okay? Because it's gonna be 7:30 in the morning here for me. So I won't do a watch along, but after the match is over, we'll be live to do the Red Devil recap. So if you want to jump in after, we'll be live for that, and then we'll go from there. So cheers for stopping by, though. Appreciate you, Sebastian. Gray says I would keep Ugarte for one more season and let Kone come through as fifth choice. Well, maybe you could do that. I don't know if that's going to happen because there is significant question marks over him, and maybe you could do it the opposite way in terms of, again, maybe you do get like maybe a Goretzka, okay? That is 30, 31. Wouldn't necessarily be a starter, but brings an experience. We use him for like a year or two. Saku can continue to sort of develop. And then by the time that guy is done, Saku comes in and starts sort of taking over more or becomes like a bigger part of the team. And that way you can transition a bit better, easier, or smoother. So Lausanne must be rubbish then. So many OMG 7:30. Yeah, it's so difficult. Don't be so bloody lazy. Yeah, but listen, when I go to sleep at 2:00 in the morning, Grace, okay, and I get 5 hours of sleep, I'm gonna be dead. And also, if I do the watch along, I have to be up an hour earlier, so I'll get 4 hours of sleep. And I know me, I'm not gonna get 4 hours of sleep. I won't wake up. And if I do wake up, I'll be here like a zombie, all right? I'll be here like a zombie. That's your fault, sort your life out? Well, it is what it is. Listen, it is what it is. It's Friday. We're going to have a bit of a late one, with the lads. Okay, with the lads, we're having a bit of a late one. So, it is what it is. But we'll do a watch along midweek for West Ham. All right? It is what it is. So, like usual, then. Hold on, we got a couple more things we need to speak about, okay? One of the pieces of news that came out, all right, was that Manchester United officials reportedly met with Luis Enrique's agent in Paris last week, attempting to persuade him to turn down PSG's new contract offer. Okay, and I sort of mentioned this yesterday. If you were here yesterday, I sort of mentioned this yesterday because there's a person, if you're on X, all right? I don't know if they post on Instagram. Maybe they do. But if you're on X, there's a person, group, account, I don't know what they are, to be honest, named Indy Kyla, okay? And this is all David Ornstein's fault because this specific person made one correct tweet that maybe they guessed or maybe they had some inside information on. All right. I think it was either about Embuemo or it was about Sesko or something. They sort of called it first, and then David Ornstein came with the Boomba, and then David Ornstein proceeded to tweet and give this person credit, okay? And it was the worst mistake he's ever done in his life, because these people literally make up the most fakest bullshit news. It's worse than the Sun. And because David Ornstein basically gave them credit, people decided that this person was now credible because they've been, sort of knighted by David Ornstein. So now they put out, they got that one story right, and now they put out bullshit about Manchester United all the time. So yesterday they said that they were going to drop some news that was going to be, explode the minds of people, and that was the news. The news was that United officials reportedly met with Luis Enrique's agents in Paris last week, attempting to persuade him to turn down PSG new contract offer, okay? And before I give you the update on why that's bullshit, just know if it comes from that account, it's 99.9% bullshit. So, but we then did get an actual update from actual journalists, okay, with more credibility than those people, all right, and said it's completely fake news that he'll be available this summer. So it doesn't look like Luis Enrique is going to be an option for Manchester United in the summer. So we can sort of take him off of the unless we're told otherwise, and unless it goes in a different direction, we can sort of take him off of the table. Also, to go with that, Luis Enrique is known to be forceful and prefers full control, which I was always aware of, often pushing back against collaborative models. For Manchester United to appoint him, they'd have to take him from PSG and be convinced he fits their structure, something that remains doubtful unless the club decides its current model is wrong, which I don't think they're going to do. So I think that's like a fat big X through Luis Enrique, okay? For that reason, because I think they seem to be doubling down on their model, which also led to sort of the sacking or the rift of Ruben Amorim, okay? Because Ruben Amorim had a bit of a problem at times with sort of the model, all right? And collaborative model that they are trying to do. So I don't think Enrique, at this moment in time, it seems like he's definitely out. I would also lean towards saying that probably would push out Tuchel, because I view Tuchel sort of the same as Luis Enrique. He prefers full control, Tuchel. He will definitely push back against collaborative models. Now, if Tuchel wants to sort of, maybe meet in the middle or something, maybe. But if Tuchel is going to be Tuchel, the way he is, the way he has been, and I don't really expect him to sort of budge on that, then I don't think he's one that we can count in either. So, and I think that's part of actually the reason why we didn't get him before he went to England when we sacked Ten Hag. I think that was part of the problem, and I don't really expect that to change, okay? I don't really expect that to change. Now, by the way, Grace will like this update because it has to do with her man, okay? Diogo, I always call him Diego. Diogo Dalot has earned renewed praise after a season where he was often scapegoated by United fans. The club backed him, with Michael Carrick publicly showing support early on. Dalot remains popular with teammates, is approachable with the media, and often speaks after defeats. And I've said again, I think he always has a good attitude. He has a good mentality. he struggled a bit with consistency, but yeah, I don't think the low is one that's gonna go anywhere. He seems to be well liked by all the managers that have come in. Ten Hag used him, Ruben used him, Carrick likes him as well, and he's known Carrick as well. So yeah, I mean, I like Delo. So I've always liked Delo. I don't have a problem with Delo. I don't agree with these people that say that Delo is like this horrible player that we need to get rid of. I never agreed with that. And I don't really understand the extent of hate at times, But couple of the updates: Manchester United's left-wing targets. Appreciation for Jan Diomande, who is a very versatile player. Leipzig are currently grandstanding and valuing him at 100 million euros. Again, I think if we're going to get a Jan Diomande, because I know people freak out when teams ask for 100 million for players. One, I don't think we would pay that. Two, I don't think that they're going to get that money. So they can quote it at 100 million all they want. I think what they quote it as and what the deal actually goes for will be two totally different numbers. We've seen this a lot recently as well with players where the teams ask for 120 million, and then the player goes for anywhere from 40 to 60 million. Who was the one from Southampton that they just recently did that with? They did the same thing. They tried to quote him in like February at 100 million. They sold him for like 40. Yeah, like Grace says, 100 million, have a sit down Leipzig. It's just, listen, it's just a tactic. It's just a tactic. I don't think there's nobody out there is going to pay actually 100 million for him. All right. And they're well aware of that. They're well aware of that. It's, to me, when they do these sorts of things at this time, listen, they know there's a lot of interest in him. Okay. They obviously think he's talented for his age. All right. And they know that they are going to lose him at some point. Yeah. They know Leipzig being Leipzig, you're not going to be able to hold on to this player for maybe as long as you would like to. So you got to play the game. You know what I mean? People are going to come in. You obviously want the utmost money. And again, if you truly believe that, if you would take 60 million for him, you're not going to say, give us 60 million, because when you ask for 60 million, everybody's always going to go lower. That's just how it works in life. Unfortunately, it would be a lot nicer and it'd be a lot easier if people would just be like 60 and then be like, here's 60. And it's just a straightforward. But if you want 60, don't ask for 60. All right. Ask for 80, ask for 90, ask for 100. Okay. It's a psychological thing. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. Like, don't let me bully you. Talk shit about me. You're not bullying me. Enrique Iglesias is more likely. 100 million. Oh, yeah, I did that one. Dibbling. Yeah, it was Dibbling. 100 million. So who is he benching? Nobody. Listen, he's not going to go for 100 million. He's not. This is just what they do. You know what I mean? It's like selling a house. A lot of people do that when they sell their houses. The house paper estimate wise, maybe it's 600,000. Okay. All right. When you list the house, you don't list it at 600,000. You list it maybe for 750, 800,000. If you're okay and comfortable with 600,000, if that's what you want, you list it for 750, 800. Because when you list it, people are going to try and negotiate it down, right? Unless somebody is sort of naive or foolish, or maybe just not so smart. But most people, when you go to buy a house, if the house is listed for, 800,000, you don't just say, okay, here's 800,000. You go, I'll give you, 650,000 for it. And then they might hit you with the counter offer and say, give us 7. And maybe you say, I give you 685, and you sort of meet somewhere there. And they're happy. You're happy because you didn't pay 8. They're happy because they got more than 600,000. You know what I mean? and then everybody sort of goes off in their own little way. And that's really what this sort of situation is here. You know, he's not like, he's not going to go for 100 million. But we are interested definitely in a winger, which also leads us into the next sort of update, which is Manchester United highly value Anthony Gordon and see him as a potential target. And he's sort of a new sort of name because we haven't really been linked with him. And Newcastle obviously have a little bit of, financial sort of issues in that they're going to need to sell to buy more or reshape their squad. They got a couple players that seem to be up on the chopping block in terms of, there's been talks about Bruno Guimarães. There's talks about Sandro Tonali, and now, another one is Anthony Gordon. So they do seem like, a couple players will leave. Now, people are highly interested in Tonali. I don't think we'll get Tonali. I don't think we're sort of looking at Tonali. But Newcastle also reportedly have a verbal agreement that would allow Bruno Guimarães to leave for £80 million to a Champions League club. However, any move within England is thought to be more likely to involve Manchester City rather than Manchester United. City are also expected to be in discussions regarding Elliot Anderson. Now, this one might be, this one might, there might be a play in here for us, because if this is true and City end up going with Bruno Guimarães, well, maybe it gives us more of a straight shot to Elliot Anderson, which means we end up with Elliot Anderson and they could take Bruno Guimarães. Alternatively, I think United have to also then consider maybe the alternative and the inverse. I think, listen, Bruno Guimarães is a good player, okay? And while obviously he's not maybe, he's not Elliot Anderson's sort of age, all right? What the hell just happened? He's not Elliot Anderson's sort of age, but I mean, he is Premier League proven. He is a good player. Dude, what is going on with my internet right now? What is happening right now? I'm trying to search. Okay. All right. He's 28 years of age, which is a player that we kind of just talked about, all right? He's basically in his prime, all right? He's done really well at Newcastle. He's done well in the Premier League. He's a physical, strong player. All right. And so I think not necessarily that we have to chase and try and buy players that City are buying, but if a player like Bruno Guimarães is available, okay, and it sort of fits the bill of, he's not the 26 or younger category, but he is Premier League proven, and it's not necessarily a bad buy in terms of for right now. You can get maybe like a Baleba and a Bruno Guimarães and stick them in that midfield. And Bruno Guimarães is 28 years of age. And, if we try to get Elliot Anderson and we lose him to Manchester City and Bruno Guimarães is available, well, we should maybe look at doing that. As sort of as the inverse, where it's like, if City are looking and picking between Elliot Anderson and Bruno Guimarães, and they pick Bruno instead of Elliot Anderson, which they might do, maybe they don't, but maybe they do, then it might give us Elliot Anderson. But if they take Elliot Anderson and we want Elliot Anderson, well, then we obviously have to start looking for alternatives, especially if we don't get like a Wharton or something. And I think if you look at Bruno Guimarães, just why not? Again, 28 years of age. Maybe you partner him with Baleba. You got a 28-year-old, a 22-year-old. You have Kobbie Mainoo. And then we figure out what we do for sort of the fourth guy. Bruno Guimarães will be able to give us, you would say at least a good 4 to 5 years, Kobbie will be young. Baleba will be young. They won't even be entering their prime by the time he gets to an age where he'll sort of be on the decline. And, we'll just have to jump back in. Gray says, if I list my house at 800K, I expect 800K and a bag of chili heatwave Doritos. Those are good. I think Anderson's decision on which team to go to will depend how what position he wants to play. We want a 6. City want more of an 8. Could be. I mean, that's interesting. It's interesting. I think definitely, that's definitely a factor. I think it's, it'll come down to a bunch of little different factors. Where we finish, where we're going to play him. I think those things always boil down to that as well. They would like to know, what's the plan for them? How much game time are they going to get? What kind of position are they going to be looking to play? Obviously, the project as a whole, if we're in Champions League or not and stuff like that. So, listen, we finish Champions League, we can have a very sort of positive summer window, Also, City offers stupid wages. Yeah, and that's the one thing where we'll definitely lose out to, okay? Because we're not going to do that anymore, right? We've made it sort of clear. We will give you we will give you a good wage, but you're not going to get something that's like ridiculous. And if you get something ridiculous, it's not coming from us anymore. And certainly they have more money. They have more leeway to give something more. You know what I mean? Like if the best we could, I don't know what wage he's on, but I'm just as an example, if the best we could offer him is like, maybe 180K or something like that, okay, per week. Well, if City want to, they can offer him, 230 if they want. They could probably go as high as they want. Whereas we could technically do it, but we're not going to do it. And also we just have less play because we're more financially strapped than they are to a certain degree. Gehi is on 300K and Buemo is on 150 and Cunha is on 180K. And that's one of the things there. But that also happens with, again, Gehi has gotten more money there because when they go into the negotiations, and I think it would be fair, like Gehi, for the price that he was sold at, I think everybody, himself and everybody else would argue the price is low. His transfer fee was low. So when they do the negotiations, they're obviously going to be like, listen, because you're paying less in a transfer fee, you're normally you would probably pay like 60, 70 million, whatever, right? Something like that. If you're not paying that, we would like a higher wage. Because I don't think they necessarily had to, and they kind of had to do it as well because they wanted him then, and he had options since his contract was running down, right? His contract was running down. He would probably get a decently high wage for his level of player and being open and being able to sign with anybody. Capology and Google says he's on 40K a week. Who, Elliot Anderson? I like Capology because Capology, there's always a joke in there that they are a cap. And I guess they made this before that was a slang for lies, Elliot Anderson on 40K. Yeah, he's probably going to want at least 150,000. At least, because this is sort of his promotion. He's going from a team like Forest. Because, at Forest, listen, how are you going to ask for a lot of it? They don't have, they got sort of a rich owner, but, it's not a club like United or City or Liverpool or something like that. So, this is sort of his promotion. You know what I mean? So, they're going to ask for money, for sure. I would give him 120K in line with Ahmad. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, I think you could probably give him something like that 120, but at the same time, that's one of the things is that, like, it depends how badly you want him. It depends how badly you believe in him. And it depends on the competition as well. I mean, again, like, you got to sort of stay competitive in those situations as well. So, I mean, if somebody's out there trying to offer him for 180,000 or something like that, I mean, you got to keep it a little bit close. Maybe you bump it up to 150. Okay, it's 30K difference. Maybe it's not that big of a difference. In that circumstance, maybe 120K would be too big and maybe it would sway him the other way. So 25% extra if we UCL. Yeah, we could do that too. There's all sorts of clauses. You could give him an extra signing on bonus or something like that. I mean, there's ways that you can make the deal potentially more attractive as well. It doesn't have to be just directly in a wage. You can put in incentive. I like the incentives for achieving stuff. Okay. Certain performance clauses. I like those things. I think they're good to have. So go get Carlos Baleba first, says Lucky. Well, I think Carlos Baleba will come after. I think it'll probably... Well, listen, it could happen in two ways. You could do Carlos Baleba first because it's the easiest, technically, maybe. Okay? And it's sort of like, we've seen United do that where they tend to go for the easiest deal first because it's sort of like an easy W and it gets fans excited and also gives fans something to live off of while we take our sweet-ass time on the next one. Or you could do it the opposite way around in terms of there is sort of more competition for these other guys and there's more interest. So you have to go and try and win that one first and put Baleba, on the back burner or down the pecking order because you need to show immediate interest and there's not a lot of time in terms of, sitting there to do another deal, then maybe do a transfer out and stuff like that, So I think I don't know how it'll necessarily go because maybe, is Baleba going to be part of the World Cup? Cameroon's in the World Cup, yeah. I don't even know. I'm gonna be quite honest. They made it to the World Cup, no? Oh, they failed to qualify for the 2026 World Cup after a 1-0 loss to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the playoff. So they're not even in the World Cup. So he's not going. So Baleba's not going to the World Cup. So maybe, you know what? Maybe that's one that we do immediately because Elliot Anderson is going to be at the World Cup. And I would assume Adam Warden is going to be at the World Cup. So, from the time sort of the season ends or June, while that competition's going on, I mean, he's just going to be like, vacation, holiday, whatever, hanging around. So, Gray says, we got to be more careful, otherwise players in 3 years' time will be asking for Casemiro money. Well, they won't really get it, though, will they? So, and then we'll have to do what we got to do. Danilo needs a pay increase. All them goals he scored. Ben Jacobs already said Carlos Baleba waiting to go to Manchester United. I mean, that definitely has been the case since basically last summer. I don't doubt that at all. Just, But yeah, I think considering he won't be in the World Cup and most of the other players will, I think, Baleba will probably be the first signing we do then, in my opinion, because it's like, well, what are we going to do you know, from like mid for like a month from mid-June to July. There's not much that we could do other than maybe like a signing like Baleba, who's not going to be part of it. I guess also we have to kind of see what's with the manager situation, because I mean, if they're not going to give Carrick the full-time job and they don't have a manager, I don't know what they're necessarily going to do. I think, it's a bit confusing, because to me it's like, well, we had this plan of Baleba, Anderson, and Wharton with Ruben and Ruben's system. Ruben is gone. His system is gone. They have stayed as targets. And it doesn't seem to really matter who the manager is actually going to be. They seem intent on going to go do that, which is why I don't always believe, like, they can't, like, this is why I don't believe this whole not signing somebody in January, because it's like, yeah, but you're already making plans to get Baleba or Elliot Anderson or Wharton in the summer, and you don't know who the manager is going to be now then anyway. So it's like, how can you plan to do that and then tell us also that you can't really make a signing in January because you don't know who the manager is going to be? Um, but yeah. So one of the things about Bruno though as well is that the Saudi Pro League is monitoring Bruno Fernandes, seeing him as one of the new players to potentially become the new king after Cristiano Ronaldo exits, because apparently Ronaldo's got some issues with how the league is over there, and how it's being handled, and he may potentially leave the Saudi league, and Saudi is still quite interested in Bruno, so Bruno might potentially go, or maybe an offer comes in for Bruno. There's, his future is a bit uncertain. I did read another update that sort of Bruno might be a bit sort of fed up with, the project's not working out the way they or were supposed to, and stuff like that. So he may consider to leave himself. So, we might have to see what happens with that. Axe is here. What's up, Axe? No, I don't think Diego Dalot is going anywhere. Our current longest-serving Manchester United players we have: Luke Shaw, 11 years and 7 months. Diego Dalot, 7 years and 7 months. Harry Maguire, 6 years and 5 months. Bruno Fernandes, 6 years. And then Tom Heaton, 4 years and 7 months. Those are the top 5 longest serving we got. Luke Shaw, Diego Dalot out. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think Luke Shaw, and I certainly don't think Diego Dalot is going anywhere. I don't think he's a guy that they're looking to get rid of. I think they like him. Well, my take on it, Axe, on Ronaldo, is that the way the league is handled there, certain clubs have been allowed to spend more money than other clubs, and he obviously wants to win the league there. And with his team sort of being limited, while the other team that's already better than his team continues to be able to sign these big major players, he's pissed off about it, because he just thinks that it's not fair, it's not balanced. They can't get a real chance to do it. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's not our team, it's not our league, and he's not our player anymore. So I don't really care that much. just that he might leave, and then they might look to create sort of a new face. And Bruno Fernandes, being Bruno Fernandes, he would definitely easily become the new face of that league, 100%, because he would obviously be the best player there by far. Ugarte must be sold. Well, I do think that's one that definitely could happen. And it has potential to happen. I mean, he's got some reported interest, supposedly. So we'll see how that goes. But again, United then have to sort of figure out a plan for that, because we talked about this before. If you get rid of Ugarte, we have one midfielder. They've been talking about signing 2 midfielders. We can't go into next season with 3 midfielders. We need a 4th. So they would have to get 3 midfielders if they let Ugarte go, because Cass is going. So I don't know what happens with that. I mean, obviously, you could always sell Ugarte and you can go and get 3 midfielders. I don't know if they feel like that's possible. I don't know if they feel like if that's realistic. I don't know if they're fucking gonna do that. I don't know. But, we'll see. Because his future does seem like it's definitely, it's not set for him to stay. But United have done things in the past where they will hold on to a player for maybe just the sake of holding on to the player, because they can't do as much business as maybe they should do. And with Cass leaving, we need another midfielder. So yeah, well, nobody's given us £209 million for him. And I don't think we're getting Cole Palmer either, because I don't think Cole Palmer is going to leave Chelsea as it is right now. Maybe in a few years or something, but I don't think that's happening. We did get this update from Dario Sport, who is a credible news outlet, paper outlet. Okay, Spanish, 2 million followers on X, and says Barcelona are set to trigger Marcus Rashford's €30 million buyout clause. There will be no negotiations with Manchester United, unwilling to lower the fee. And hopefully that's true. And that's how it should be. Manchester United should not entertain any sort of negotiations for that. Again, you're supposed to be this big historic club. Have a little bit of decency and respect about yourself. You agreed to a loan, okay? And in the loan deal, you agreed to the 30 million. If you had a problem with the 30 million, you should have discussed it then, and you should have seen it. Don't play this sneaky bullshit where you always knew from the beginning you never wanted to pay 30 million. And you would have always liked to pay lower. And you didn't mention that first so you could get the player at your club. And if it goes well, he'll be more on your side because he'll love to stay there. And then you try and flip it around on us to use it to negotiate a lower fee. Okay? He's done well for you. You like him and he likes your club. Pay the money. Have some respect for yourselves. All right? Because to me, I don't respect them, like I once did, because they're acting like little bitches. To put it bluntly, they're acting like little bitches. I mean, listen, you have financial problems. It's not our problem, okay? It's not our fucking problem. We've had our own financial problem. Nobody was doing us favors. Nobody came to, bail us out. So you deal with it. sell a fucking player or something. Do what you got to do as a football club. I don't know. I don't know, but you can't be beggars and choosers, okay? So if you want him, pay the money. You don't have the money, figure some shit out. You got a fucking academy player in there or a player in the squad that maybe you don't want, get rid of them. Sell them, raise some funds. Figure it out. So hopefully, if I was United, I would tell them the same. Just, you got to put your foot down in that situation. You can't panic. You can't say what happens if we can't find a suitor for Rashford. There'll be somebody out there, and eventually he won't have a choice either. All right? Listen, he wants to... It drags out all summer. It drags out all summer, but I'm sure at the end of it, he doesn't want to come back to United, and he wants to go and play. He'll make up his fucking mind as well. All right? So... hopefully they just suck it up and act, accordingly and pay. Like, if you want him, pay. There's none of this negotiation shit, all right? The negotiation already happened when we negotiated the initial loan. So, hopefully it's true. Hopefully it works out. And hopefully this is accurate in terms of Manchester United just sort of put their foot down and tell them there will be no negotiations. We're not going to lower the fee, pay the fee, or fuck off. But we gotta wait and see, because this has happened a couple times already. A few times they've said that Barca are gonna pay it. Then they come out a few weeks later, a month later, and they say that Barca want to negotiate lower. So we'll see how this saga sort of goes. Because I think literally a day or two ago, or not long, a couple days ago or something like that, they literally said that, they don't want to pay it and that they're going to try and negotiate down. And then today we're saying that Barcelona are going to trigger it. So, Barcelona sell player to go get Marcus Rashford. Barcelona sell player to go get Marcus Rashford. Negotiations were done in the summer. Well, we'll find out. They better just pay it though. In some other sort of non-related type of news, you may have heard, maybe not have heard, but Avram Glazer, who is one of the Glazers that own us, as you all know, executive co-chairman of Manchester United, has bid $1.8 billion US for RCB 2020 cricket team that competes in the Indian Premier League. That's made a lot of headlines today. Okay, 1.8 billion they have, or he has specifically offered. And I don't know how that's necessarily going to impact us in the future. But yeah, I mean, listen, they got fucking money. They've never put it in to ours. And obviously they can't do what they once did to us with anybody else because it's illegal now. So they actually has to use his fucking money to buy that cricket team specifically. The replies to that has been, nobody obviously wants them. He's got money to bid for cricket teams, but can't write any of the debt off. Absolute parasite. And to that, it's like, yes, I understand, obviously. I understand, obviously, that take, but to these people that say these things, it's like, I don't know why you would, like, again, you people don't understand these people properly, I guess. You just wouldn't. Why would you do it? Like, you're talking about it from a fan perspective. They're not fans. They're here, and they were always here to make money, and it's a business to them. Why would you pay the debt off? If I wasn't if it wasn't Manchester United Football Club and it was a business of fucking any sort, and I did the deal that they did, I would never pay the debt either. You would have to be a fucking moron to pay the debt. Why would you pay the debt? I wouldn't. You would never pay a dime, a penny, for the debt. You would literally have to be stupid to pay the debt. Okay, and obviously they're not United fans, and obviously they don't give a shit about the sport. So, I kind of get the outrage, but at the same time, it's like it's not something that necessarily outrages me because it's like I expect that. I know they have a shit ton of money, and I know that they could pay the debt off if they wanted to, but I also know that they're definitely never going to do that. They're never going to put a fucking penny towards it ever. Because why would you? If I owned a business, I wouldn't do it either. I think most people wouldn't do it. Now, if I owned Manchester United, obviously I'd do it because I love the football club and I don't want the club to be in debt. But if it's just a business, which is what it is to them, why would you pay the debt? You're never going to pay the debt. Have you talked about the Munich tragedy? Yes, we opened the show with that. My Indian brothers won't allow this. Well, I mean, the only thing that's sort of in their corner is that I think there is about another 8 or 9 bids with his bid as well. So, not like he's the only one in the running, although I'll tell you now, sort of as a prediction, I don't know the other people that are involved, okay? So maybe I'm a bit off here. But I will say I won't be surprised if he ends up getting it, all right? They have deep connections. Deep, deep, deep connections, okay? I won't be surprised if he ends up getting it. And he ends up beating it out. Now, maybe that would change if I knew who the other bidders were, but I don't know much about cricket. I'm not interested in cricket. And I haven't looked at that further. So that's above sort of my interest there. But obviously, considering that he's our owner of our club, we had to make that statement. So but yeah, one of these other things was that Manchester United really likes Anthony Gordon and considers him a potential option for the left wing position, especially knowing that the player actually relishes the chance to have more game time through the center as a number 9, which I'm kind of confused as like, so you're telling us like what? I mean, it's because what you want, like you like the rotation of the front 3, kind of like how we're doing right now. If Sesko isn't there, Mbeumo, Diallo, and sort of Cunha, they seem to rotate. I mean, they've rotated under Carrick. They've done that rotation under Ruben. I guess if you get somebody like Anthony Gordon, he would be able to do the same, where you can sort of rotate them in the middle of the match, while the match is ongoing. So I don't know how I feel about Anthony Gordon, though, to be quite honest. I don't know if he's a player that I feel like would end up doing well for us. There's a lot of people that like him, but I feel like he's just slightly. I feel like people slightly overrate him, slightly. And also, I mean, this hasn't kind of stopped us before, but he is a Scouse, so he's a Scouser. He was born in Liverpool, so. That for some people in United will be an automatic no just because of that. Even though that hasn't necessarily stopped us in the past. I mean, Rooney was a Scouse. And, I think maybe it was okay because we got him at such a young age and then he became United, Bruno for life. Anthony Gordon, if desired to plays for Manchester United, I would open buy him. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of talk. Coming out from the Newcastle camp, I mean, my father thinks that Eddie Howe is going to get sacked at the end of the season as well. So could be a lot of sort of big changes coming in at Newcastle. And they cannot access that cash that they have. So they need to make maneuvers. You know, they are a bit tied. And they do need to raise funds. So the way you raise funds is you do need to turn a profit. So that may be selling a couple players that maybe you don't maybe necessarily want to sell, but what you bought them for and you're selling them for higher fees, you are turning profits, which should let you sort of open the checkbook. Yeah, Eddie Howe. Yeah, my father thinks they're gonna let him go at the end of the season. They're gonna part ways. That's sort of been his prediction that he's been saying. He feels like they're gonna let Eddie Howe go at the end of the season. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Eddie Howe. Yeah, Eddie Howe. Why you keep asking? Do you not know who Eddie Howe is? Was another update somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. I do need to check because I think there was some things that came out right when we were going live. So we need to just like double cover that. No, there's 2 words. Oh, Eddie Howe. Okay. Um, I don't really. Yeah, I guess that was just the Marcus Rashford news that broke when we went live, so I just talked about it. By the way, the bookies have put us at a 60% chance of beating Tottenham tomorrow at Old Trafford. So we are, I guess, officially the favorites from the bookies' standpoint, the very least, and I guess even our fan base. So a little bit of PTSD we got going on because there's many of us out there that feel like every time we are made the favorites, we turn up and fuck it up. But many of us feel like we may have kind of turned a new leaf under Michael Carrick. So we'll see. I think it's going to be, you know, definitely an interesting match. It'll be a good match. His name is Eddie. How is he at Newcastle? My boy back. No, Rashford is not coming back. Rashford is not coming back. Barcelona will activate the 30 million euro buy clause for Rashford. He will not return to Manchester United. That is the update that we got 1 hour ago. Coming from Dario Sport. There will be no negotiations. Manchester United are not willing to lower the fee at all, which they should not. And good. We could get the ball rolling. We'll take the money, get that shit out of the way. We'll take the money for Rasmus, get that shit out of the way, and we'll start moving forward like we need to. So then really all we got left to deal with is the biggest probably pain in the ass is going to be Andre Onana, because we got to figure out how we're going to offload him. Maybe Inter Milan gives us a way out and saves us some trouble and some time on that one, because there was a bit of the rumors that they might go and take him back, because they are having a goalkeeper change supposedly there. And then, the other one would basically be Ugarte and maybe Xerxes. And I think that's probably, and maybe Bruno. But Bruno won't be one that the club sort of looks to do, obviously. As the club stands right now, the club's standpoint is they would like to keep Bruno. It obviously depends on what Bruno would like. And then it would also maybe depend on, if a Saudi club out there wants him and they offer some sort of significant money of like 100 million north. But ones that will probably be looked to be done, or are going to be done, Rasmus, Marcus, Ugarte, and Xerxes. I don't expect a lot of outgoings. I don't, because we're only going to be able to transfer in a certain amount of players, and we can only get rid of a certain amount of players because we're going to need a bigger squad. I'm expecting to finish in the Champions League spot. We're going to need a bigger squad, so we're going to need more depth. So we can't get rid of too many players. We'll only have a certain amount of money to spend anyway. So, and if we're going to do sort of a big midfield revamp, a large chunk of it is going to be spent on that. It's kind of going to be like a bit like the attack this season. We're going to end up spending, probably like 150 to 100, 180 or something like that, 150, 160 on the center mids by themselves. And then whatever we got left over to do whatever we can. Maybe we could get a left winger with that if we need it. And then maybe, I think it also depends if Harry Maguire is staying or going as well. So, have I explained to you how we'll be dominating the UCL next season? No. No, you haven't, and I don't think we will. But we should be at least competitive in it for sure. From the outlook of the English teams this season, I don't expect much to change for next season. We should be able to sort of hold our own in there. But we'll see how that goes and how they handle it. Because the last time we went back in there, we took the piss in the group stage. So, and we weren't in it for one season? For that time. So, and then we went back in, and that was the old format as well. So the new format is a bit different. So it could work out better for us in that way. So it'll be all right. We need Endrick, Yamal, Stilla, Anderson, and Scalvini. I told you this yesterday. We're never getting Yamal. It's never happening. Endrick ain't coming to us either. Okay? We'll have nice gray beards by the time we get Endrick. All right? Stiller, we could probably do that deal. Anderson, we could do it. And Scalvini is probably always an option, but he doesn't seem like he's on really anybody's radar and doesn't seem like he's going anywhere for the time being. So, I'm gonna have to come up with two different names for Yamal and Endrick because we're never getting them. They're never coming. And I don't even think we necessarily really need them. The attack we have is pretty good right now. And Yeah, we don't need them. Tottenham fans, you're losing tomorrow. Well, my uncle and my 2 cousins are Tottenham fans, so hopefully we beat them. So I could talk some shit to them. You know what I mean? So I could talk some shit to them. But listen, we're gonna get out of here. Okay, I gotta go. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for smashing the like button. Thank you for getting involved in the chat and supporting the channel. Thank you for being here on Munich Munich disaster, air disaster, Remembrance Day, as I like to call it. And we will be back live tomorrow after the match. So make sure you come for the Red Devil recap so we discuss the match. I'm going to go score prediction. I will say United 2-1. 2-1. 2-1 United. I think we'll go up 2. I think they'll score a goal on us and it'll be tight. It'll be a bit cagey. And but I think we'll figure out a way to see it through at the end, and we'll get out of there with 3 points, 4 wins straight, and we move forward. That's what I'm going for. 2-1. I think both teams will at least score a goal, for sure. And I'm expecting there to be at least 3 goals in the game. Maybe the score line is a bit higher, but yeah, I'll say 2-1 to United. So Max says good night, Glazers out. Good night, and Glazers out. Yeah, so everybody take care. Enjoy the rest of your Fridays. Stay safe. Be good. We'll see each other tomorrow. Sort of nice and early. Well, earlier than usual. And we'll go from there, all right? So everybody take care. Be good. Stay safe. Good night. Good evening. And we'll see and speak with each other tomorrow.